Good evening. I'd like to welcome you tonight on behalf of South Leeds Life. It's the Middleton Park Ward hustings for the local elections. I nearly said general election then. Um, we've had one apology for not being able to get here who might be late depending on circumstances, and that's Innocent on behalf of the Labour Party. And we've got tonight Wayne Dixon on behalf of the SDP, which, if there is any other councillors there that I can't see, if you'd like to give us a shout and let us know, we can include you. But otherwise, that's it. Is there anything you'd like to add, Christine? I've missed no? Can we? This sounds a bit stupid, but there will be lots of people that don't know you. Do you live in the area? I'll
So
start with Wade.
yeah, yeah, it does feel like a bit of a weird question, just because I feel like there aren't many
There's a
people.
lot of people that don't know.
But you're right. So yeah, I've always lived in Middleton or Belial. I've lived in both, but mainly brought up in Middleton and moved to Belial for 9 years, and then back in Middleton now, where I've lived for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh, Next question is, what do you feel that you can do better than what's currently happening?
so I feel like that. So obviously I'm going for my second term here. So I feel like the last 4 years has kind of just been a bit of a learning curve, really, learning the job, assessing what's needed, and just trying to turn around some of the things that have been neglected. So I feel like we've kind of done that. The first few years felt kind of wasted, really, because I was always up against two Labour councillors that didn't always think the same way. So I felt that caused a bit of a challenge. So I feel like the first term really was a bit delayed from getting things started and going, and I feel like things are just starting to pick up. We're getting a few things done now. Now there's three of us, and it'd be great if we could just continue that road. So things like developing more playgrounds, for example, we got one done last year, and we only have three in the whole of the ward, which I think's disgusting, really, for a ward of 20,000 electorates, so probably about 30,000 people. And there's only three playgrounds that are actually able to be used. So that's probably kind of one of our key focuses going forward.
Yeah. Um, what issues actually inspired you to join the party and to run as a candidate?
So lots of them really. Um, uh, Most people know that I set the Middleton Park Football Club up. So originally, eh, that that was kind of the reason I kind of got in politics, really, by disagreeing with the councillors at the time, on what support they could offer, to get more kids playing. So that kind of was my drive initially, and then people kept coming to me and saying, "Oh, this is an issue, and this is an issue," and then I realised actually I wasn't the only one, what they were ignoring. So yeah, that was kind of what drove me. And in the end, so I stood as an independent initially, and then looked for a party, and yeah, I came across the Social Democrats and thought they think a bit like me, so that's the one I'm going to join.
Which policy are you most passionate about?
So I guess this means like on a national level, really. But I suppose one of the policies I think is really good what the SDP have is they want to create a national care service, so that one, it can stop bed blocking in NHS, but also like two, people don't have to spend all the savings to look for their own care. I think that's really a really good policy, really, that's going to benefit so many people and reduce a lot of pressure on a lot of families. Um, yeah, and it'll help the NHS as well save money by keeping people flowing through the system. And I also think it'll save councils money.
Yeah. Are there any policies that you don't agree with that your party does? Is there anything that you don't agree with, or
Yeah, yeah, there probably is. Um, what they are off the top of my head, I'm not really sure if I'm honest.
anybody said
Um,
that?
well, yeah, I mean, if there was something I disagreed with so strongly, I wouldn't be in party, right? I'd
Yeah.
probably be gone. But I think the advantage in my party is that the members have the ability to change policy, so we can propose to amend or change policy at conference, which often happens. So those kind of policies that people don't like tend to come up in conference and get voted on. So that's one good thing I like about the fact that if there's something you like, you can challenge it and dislike, sorry.
Will you be, if you got in, would you be happy to work with the other parties?
Um, yeah, I mean, I worked with pretty much every party going forward. I like earlier this year when we were fighting the changes to the bowling clubs, I I was the one who took it in for took the decision in for a review on behalf of all the political parties. So that just wasn't just on the Social Democrats; it was literally all the opposition groups.
Mm.
So I've worked with every party on council as it stands. So yeah.
This is from me. We're going to fall out over this in a minute. Artificial turf. It's now it's a significant source of microplastic pollution, which we know. And there's been an urgent call last week by a parliamentary committee to ban PFAS products like artificial turf. And last month, a major teachers' union demanded a ban on the exact type of turf that's planned for Holbeck New Hub down there. Do you think the council should still go ahead with these outdated pitches when they know they are polluting the environment?
I'll be honest, I'm a bit torn because I'd much rather see loads of investment in really good, well-drained grass pitches. Um, but equally, there's a massive demand for pitches. So like one 3G pitch can allow 5 or 6 teams to play regular games on there a week or more even, whereas one grass pitch can probably hold maybe 3 or 4 teams at most.
Mm.
So I am a bit torn, but I suppose it depends where they are. I think, it, like for example, Olbeck. I think it's quite an old industrial site. I think it'd have less impact on the environment down there than it would say the one at Coburn School, what was in the park.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't think it's a case of like for or against. It's kind of about like getting the right balance of where they are and how many of them there is. I hope that's a fair
Yeah.
reflection.
Now, looking at the lack of trust in local and national politics at the moment, senior public figures such as Angela Rayner, Richard Tice have faced significant public and media scrutiny over their personal financial affairs. Given that level of attention at the national level, do you think all public officials, including local councillors, should be fully transparent about their financial history so voters can make informed decisions? And do you believe you meet that standard?
So I think I do. Um, I've never had any financial issues, what have caused me to be in debt or anything like that, touch wood. Um, but I recognise some people have, and they may have to, I don't know, maybe get an IVA or go bankrupt, whatever. I think actually, if you get bankrupt, you're not eligible to be a candidate, if I remember rightly. Um, but I suppose it is on public record, stuff like that anyway. You can just go on government's website and see if the candidates have got anything like that. So that kind of allows transparency on that front. But personally, I probably wouldn't stand if I had something like that because to stop, I'd just be a bit embarrassed if I'm honest. Um, stuff like that does come out, doesn't it? So.
Looking at your party's manifesto, which policy or commitment do you personally believe in most strongly? But I think you might have answered this and why. And what tangible difference do you think it would make to people here in our local area?
Yeah, so I think I did answer that, and it's the National Care Service, so I'll stick by that again. I'm not going to change which policy, but especially if like adult social care, for example, can be moved off the books of the councils, I think most councils would breathe a big sigh of relief. 'Cause social care has a massive impact on council finances, and if it could be more centralised, like as a government agency, I think it would benefit both councils and people in general anyway, not just here.
Yeah. Um, can you give specific examples from your own life where you've made a positive difference in this community and how those experiences of um, how they have prepared you for the responsibilities of being a counsellor?
Okay. I suppose it's probably digging at like what have you done before you're a councillor
Yeah.
or a candidate. And I think out of this year's candidates in my ward, I'm probably the only one who's done something before they were a councillor. And that's not a dig because obviously everyone's situation is different. But yeah, in 2004, I set the kids' football club up. And when I got elected in 2022, I had to stand off the committee there because I constituted it pretty much as South Leeds Life is that politicians can't be on the board if elected, and I feel that's something more important to me to stick to, and it was quite what's the word? It was quite hard to step back and let someone else take control. But managed to do it, and the committee there now are really good and strong, and yeah, and I sat on Middleton Leeds trustee board. I've sat on your board, and I still sit on Middleton Leeds board today as well. But also I think what probably gave me the skills more of a counsellor is working in the charity sector. I've worked for 22 years now in charity sector, working at Health for All and other charities across the city. And I felt like it gave me a good understanding of council departments, but also what charities are doing in the city, and who does what and what kind of support's out there. So that's really useful when people come to me saying, I need support with this, and I can say, oh, have you tried this charity? Yeah, they do really good service, and it's just give me that little bit advantage that some councils might not have had.
Right. I've got through all my questions, Christine. Have you got any that's come through from the people that are watching?
Yeah, there's a couple from the people that are watching, and then one that you missed. So, Wayne, should council tax be reduced, and if so, how would you do it?
So, I mean, in an ideal world, yes. But how we could do it, I'm not sure we could. But I do think there's probably savings to be had. But whether or not they're big enough to reduce people's bills is a totally different story. So I think sometimes you heard a lot, don't you? Especially in this election, actually, we've heard a lot of people saying that there's so much waste. But my response to that is always, well, waste is actually subjective, right? Because what you think's waste could be totally different to what I think's waste.
Mhm.
So it's okay. So what they are is just political choices, and I'd say that some of those political choices would be different under an SDP council than they would be under a Labour council. Whether or not it could reduce the bills, I think every political party would be saying we'll be looking at the books and trying to reduce it if possible. And I think we'd be no different from that.
Okay, lovely.
Does that answer your question? I think.
I think so. So one from in the chat. So it says, if Leeds City Council becomes a no overall control following the local election in May, which other political grouping would you go into partnership with?
I guess it depends who gave us the best offer for Middleton and Belial. And what would be on table for our area. Um, like I say, I've worked with all groups politically. Um, I don't think I could bring myself to support the Labour group if I'm honest.
Mm.
But yeah, I think that would probably be probably my only rule out. So yeah.
Okay. We've got an apology from Lexi from the Green Party that came in a little bit late, so just to note. Um, so another question from the chat. I'm under the impression that councillors have access to a small pot of money to invest in the area. If elected, what area or social issue would you use that pot of money on and why? It's not
Um,
clear if it means the MICE money or the community committee money. It just says
okay. So I
small pot.
suppose I'll tell you what access councillors do have. So each councillor gets around, I think it's £2,000 a year mice money to spend. So we already spend that on giving to like smaller groups that might not be able to deal with the paperwork. I'll give you an example, I guess, is like a mental health group or something like that. What's not got no paid workers, and need room hire, so we might pay for the room using that money. Um, so that's tend to what we use mice money for. And when things are a bit more like larger sums, so like for example, last year we funded like South Leeds juniors for their winter training. Um, on the 3G pitch. Sorry, Linda. Um, but at the South Leeds Youth Hub, and that was a larger sum of money. So we went through the community committee for that. But that's not as clear cut as it's just us who's responsible. We have to then ask neighbouring wards councillors to support us to accept that bid. Um, so yeah, so we work with other councillors to say like if something's from our ward and we okay it, we'll okay what's from your ward, and you do that kind of like gentleman's agreement, I suppose, on community committee. Yeah, unless of course there's some questions on why not.
No, there was no follow-up. So another question. What are the political implications of cutting officers to reduce council tax overall?
Um, well, I think we've seen implications already. Really, it's like bulky waste not getting picked up enough. Um, Causing more fly tipping. I feel like the council's focused very much on cutting the frontline staff, um, rather than looking at the management structures of the council, which I think there'd be bigger savings for. Um, so I suppose until you do it, you don't really know what the impact is. But if you're cutting frontline staff, the impact's seen pretty much straight away. If you're cutting management, it's debatable whether or not some managers are better than others. Um, so yeah, so the impact could be just there's no service. So it could be that there's reduced service. It could be that it actually runs just as well without that level of management. So I suppose it's about delving in and understanding each department individually. But with 17,000 staff, I think there is in the council, it's quite a minefield. Even 4 years in, there's people that I didn't even know existed, and you're finding them all the time. You're like, oh God, that's a job. Do you know? So yeah, it's just about delving in. And I guess like if you're an executive member with a portfolio for a certain department, then that your job is to delve in and understand that what's needed and what's not needed, and looking at restructures to save money.
All right, thank you. So another question from in the chat, it says, the SDP manifesto states, married families will be given preference in council house and social housing allocation, which will be increased. Safe staffed accommodation will be provided by the state for vulnerable young unpartnered parents, including education, training support and parenting skills. Absent parents will pay child maintenance in all cases. Do you fully support giving preference to married couples over those who are not married? So I've read it how it says it. I think it means in terms of housing.
Um, yeah. don't think there's what else to that, but that's a national policy, so I'm not really sure why it's little relevant to local stuff. But yeah,
Just
but
check.
yeah, yes, I do.
Okay. Just let me go. Okay. Another question from the chat. How would you say the car park charges at Middleton Park has gone since the council implemented them?
So we we actually initially were going to get parking charges in the main car park down near the cafe and the pond. So we did well to escape some charges, I suppose. But I, I think everyone's probably seen me standing in council and arguing against these charges on several occasions and getting it put to vote on several occasions. And obviously, Labour have majority, so they'll just continue with what their agenda is. Um, but I've not stopped shouting, I've not stopped arguing because I think it's had a real negative impact on the urban bike park. They've had to reduce their hours on the cafe, and they've lost a lot of money. And um, as a small organisation, it's impacted them significantly, really. Um, so yeah, and I guess I'm not the only councillor saying that across the city. I think the Rothwell councillors have had the same problem in Rothwell, and I know Wetherby councillors have been saying the same. So it's quite opposed by everybody other than the Labour group, I think. So.
Okay, that's fine. So back to Middleton Park. Is there any plans for preserving the wildlife of Middleton Park?
So I think Friends of Middleton Park do a pretty good job. They're always looking at initiatives to try and improve the wildlife in the park. Only last week, the council working with Friends of Middleton Park were developing a butterfly meadow, so they were seeding that last week. So that should have a good positive impact on wildlife in park. But there's more to do. We need to continually look at how we secure the site, secure the park from illegal vehicles accessing it. It's a massive area to cover, so it's kind of a constant battle, really. But I think stopping stolen cars getting in, for example, can only benefit the wildlife in the end. Um, but yeah, I hope that answers that.
Very true. Okay, I've got a couple more for you in. Sorry, I'm just trying to keep up.
Sorry.
There has been a lot of talk in local groups about how an SDP councillor can make a positive impact of other candidates. For instance, Reform, due to not being one of the big national parties. Do you think you can or have made a difference locally? And do you have any examples?
So we have more councillors than Reform on the council at the minute. So that I think the Reform argument is, we'll ride on Nigel Farage's coattails. We'll win the council. We'll take over. When realistically, if they win every seat, they're only going to have 33 seats this year, right? And sorry, 36 because there's three extra ones, I think. And that's still not a majority. So they're still not going to be controlling the council. They'd still have to go and do it again the year after. And realistically, they're nowhere near going to get that many seats. Um, the Reform candidate himself told me they're aiming to win 14 seats. He's put this publicly in public groups. So if he wins 14 this year, wins 14 next year, and wins 14 year after, it's still not a majority, right? So Reform are not going to have a majority, even in their own um, workings out. And obviously that includes them taking Middleton. So they're expecting to win here. Um, so so no, they're not going to get a majority, I don't think. And um, have we changed anything as a minority party? I think we have. I think we had one of our white papers passed, which I think was the only one the opposition got passed this year, which was to consult in extending I'm trying to remember what it is now, Article 5, I think it is, which basically means that, so for example, in Beeston and Albeck at the minute, if you want to set up an HMO for 5 people or less, you need planning permission for that. In Middleton, you don't. So we asked for that to be extended up to Middleton. And even the Labour group agreed with us and voted that through. So we can make changes. Um, so yeah, it's just a lie that we can't make any changes. And with access for committee funding, we built a good relationship with neighbouring ward councillors to be able to use that funding where people want us to use it in our ward. So that's the main thing. Yeah, we might not control the council, but neither will reform.
Fair enough. So another question, Wayne. What do you think of the new bins and how do you feel they've been distributed around Leeds?
Right. So they've been distributed equally across the city, as far as I'm aware. Um, we were all asked for locations, so we asked members of the public for locations. I think I submitted 40 something locations what were put to us from residents and a bit more. And the council went out and distributed them to 30 odd of those sites, I think. And I'm not 100% happy if I'm honest. There's a few that I'm going to look at getting moved. There's one randomly what's been put next to a bin that already exists, which I just don't see point of. But so there's a few niggly bits to sort out there. Um, there's a few put near residents' homes who didn't want them near their homes. So yeah, there's going to be. You're never going to make it perfect in first go, but it's great to see more bins. I just hope people use them.
Yeah. Okay, lovely. So another question. The parks in the area have been left to decay over the past decade, apart from Middleton Park. Have you any plans to upgrade smaller local parks or have you already started?
So the only park we upgraded, I think it was last year through the community committee funding, was the one on Middleton Way, Stroke Ring Road. There weren't a lot of money to spare, but we managed to get it painted up and a few extra bits added. Um, and there's sorry, we've got some extra bits added to Middleton Park as well, obviously. But we've only three parks in the whole ward, and I think for us that's quite a frustration for us. We want more. So the council at the budget in February announced 1.5 million to spend on upgrading play parks or creating new ones. So we've already been pushing to try and get some of that funding. But obviously with PERDA and everything, we can't be told if we can have any or not. So for obvious reasons. So one of the first things we'll be doing after the election is trying to get those meetings with council officers and arguing for a pot of it, for a bit of that money. But in terms of Middleton, it might be a bit easier because we're going to get £2 million a year for the next 10 years for from central government called Pride in Place funding. So we're hoping some of that could be used to create a few new more play parks in the Middleton end. So yeah, so I think I've kind of ranted a bit there, but yeah, I mean it's something we definitely need is more play parks. I don't think we can have enough, and especially like they say that it's massive for education for children at early age to go and a play park, and we just haven't been offering that for a long time here.
Yeah. All right. So another question. How would you rate the services like Bitmore in how they have provided services to the Belle Isle side of the ward?
So I think Bitmore do a really good job. Obviously they're not perfect, nothing's perfect, and there's always room for improvement. But I think because it's led by the tenants, and the tenants say we want this, we want that, and the board is made up by tenants. It just brings a different dynamic to what we've got in Middleton, where it's a council who run the services, and the tenants don't really have much say. Um, so yeah, I think a bit more quite reactive in the main. Um, yeah, and really good, and I think tenant management's pretty good. It's the only one in the city, and they do a good job.
Okay, so I'm out of questions for the chat. So if anyone's got any more questions, you've got 2 minutes to put one in. Okay, we've got another one. So There is a high amount of antisocial behaviour from e-bikes and quads locally, and also from the teens in the new St George's retail park. What have you done to address this?
So realistically, crime is above the council level, but that doesn't mean we don't do anything about it. It means we're in less control of where resources can be put. Um, all we can do is ask and hope a lot of the time. In terms of antisocial behaviour and e-bikes, I've personally stood in front of Leeds City Council and challenged Tracy Brabin on the lack of resources for stuff like this. Um, she may have ignored me, but I've done that. Um, I've written letters alongside Emma and Rob to I think four different policing ministers now asking for more resources for police in our area. I've actually challenged Tracy Brabin four times, I think, in council. One of the times was about promoting people actually reporting incidents to the police because we know that people kind of lost hope with the police, and we felt that it needed something from the West Yorkshire Mayor's office to try and tell people actually if you do report, this is where that's how your resources get put into your area. But again, she didn't feel that we needed and refused to support us on that. But we meet regularly with the local sergeant and inspector who have got a lot of time for. I think like they work really hard and they try really hard, but they just haven't got the resources to do what they need to do.
Mhm.
Um, the police have issued dispersal orders on that on the retail park in question. We've also got youth services visiting down there on a regular basis to talk to young people and see if there's activities that we can divert them into. What else have we done? God, in terms of bikes and quads, we've blocked up loads of different rat runs that they use via putting chicanes in so that they're less likely to use them to escape the police. For example, outside of the youth hub on Bilal Road, there's a little cobbled road what they used to fly up onto Middleton Road. The police asked us there if we could help, so um, we've put some restrictions in there to stop the bikes just flying through. And lots of different other areas. You've probably seen quite a lot of them popping up, the chicanes and stuff. The A-frames are not allowed anymore because of mobility scooters, so that's why you're getting the chicanes and not the A-frames anymore.
Mhm.
There's been incidences where they've cut them down and we've had to put them up again. So it is a constant battle with the quads and bikes. But we're just constantly arguing for more off-road police team time over here. But to get that, we need people just to be reporting to police. And I've also got a petition up and running if you want to sign it. If you look on our Facebook page, you'll find that.
Right, thank you. Question from your colleague Daniel. What community groups are you interacting with?
Um, all of them, I think. Um, so yeah, we between three of us, me, Emma, and Rob, we get round pretty much every local group between us on a monthly basis at the very least, asking what they need, what they want. But most of them will just approach us now when they need something, and we're happy to help if we can. More recently, we supported like Trinity Network to put on some fitness groups for elderly. Um, so that's probably the latest thing we did just before the election, before we weren't allowed to spend any money anymore. And yeah, we just regularly talk to everybody. Middleton Elderly, they're going once a month and I do a drop in there. Rob does one at Gascoigne House. Um, Emma works at Middleton Elderly, so she's seen a lot, but she's also on Bilal Senior Action Board. Yeah, so all of them, I guess.
Okay, lovely. Another question. What is the council's interaction with the Coburn repaving issue?
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know what that refers to, but that's the
I'm not sure either, if I'm honest.
question instead. Okay, lovely. All right. So, one last one I can see. What advice would you give to other candidates if they were to watch this at some point, which of course they will be. So
Stop lying about each other. Um, just that's the point of it. Um, I've seen a few things about myself, and I just think that if you question something, come and talk to me or question me, but don't accuse me of something I'm not doing.
yeah,
And I
I
will
think
accuse you, and I haven't.
I think one of the other questions that was down here was how do you feel about how it's been on social media this year?
To be honest, it's not been as bad as it previously has been. Um, I, yeah, just a couple of times where things have been said that are not true, but I'm not got upset about it. Just kind of move on. Just don't give it air. Um, but yeah, like I say to everybody locally, like if something's said about me, come and challenge me on it, and I'll tell you if it's true or not, and then make your own mind up.
Lovely. What power or influence do you have when it comes to the leisure centre? Can it be saved for the community?
I think the answer's probably no, if I'm honest. So it seems that the decision for the leisure centre was made quite a long time ago before I was even elected. It was all part of the deal with the school, and that's the honest answer. And although the gym's going to be still there, that's mainly because the council has loans riding on it, so it kind of needs the income to pay the loans off. Um, So no, I don't think the leisure centre is going to be saved at this stage. The school's going to absorb it. It's going to be classrooms for the school. Um, Honest answer. Yeah, we've had a lot of meetings and we got quite frustrated actually because we weren't we weren't being honest with ourselves. You know, people like in I'm trying not to name names, but people within the council weren't honest with us. Rather than just tell us as it was, they tried to hide things from us, and we had to literally go to council and ask questions where legally we have to get a response. And that shouldn't be the way. We should have been briefed properly, and we weren't. Um, so that was really a frustrating time that we had to go a long way around to get answers to really basic questions. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, Wayne. So there's no more questions in the chat now. So I'll give it back to Linda so she can ask for your roundup.
Yeah, just a couple of minutes to tell everybody what you're about and what you would intend carrying on doing if you get re-elected. That's it. It's been a short night because obviously there's only about a third of the councillors here to ask questions to. So the
Okay.
table's yours.
No, so basically, if people were to re-elect me, our focus, and I suppose our focus has always been like young people and making sure that young people have got activities to drive them away from antisocial behaviour, but also opportunities. So we want to create more, especially for girls, in terms of like activities. So, for example, we funded the Unsick Foundation to do some rugby union with the girls at Leeds Corinthians, and that's gone really well. There's two new girls teams there. It's really good to see girls playing sports. Like Middleton Park Football Club have set up girls teams there, um, which it'll be starting next season. So we noticed quite a lot for boys. There were rugby, there were football, there's Unset Club down the road as well. But we need more stuff up Middleton for girls. And that's what we've been trying to do really is just create those more opportunities and more varied opportunities as well. Like um, we we support the youth clubs up Middleton. We've got one in Middleton. We've got the Dazzle as well. We've been funding Dazzle. And it's just funding those groups and activities for young people really is kind of the key and or hopefully steer them away from antisocial behaviour. Um, what do we want to do? We want to keep tidying up the areas. Some definite grot spots we want to sort out, like on the Bodmins and Sissons Road. Is there a constant problem with people fly tipping on the streets? So before the election, we was meeting with there's a new task force set up with the council that's going to enforce those kind of areas to try and find the perpetrators. So there'll be like mobile cameras coming and stuff like that if they meet a certain threshold. So we've had a few meetings with those people, and we're hopefully like once that service is up and running properly, then we'll be hopefully getting our piece of that for our area and try and tackle these places. But also like on bombings, looking at maybe like is there any fencing we can put up to stop fly tipping in some of the areas, which would help. Um, and yeah, on Ward Lane in Belial as well, fly tipping's a real issue there. So we're looking at like what can be done to stop people just throwing their rubbish onto fields at back of Ward Lane. And maybe getting some bins down there as well, so the school kids aren't throwing the pop bottles on the way to school. So they're not the small things that often make like the biggest difference to people's lives, aren't there? So we've got a list of all over the last 4 years of stuff where people have come to us and said, "Can you do this?" And we can't find funding for it because it just don't fit into any certain pot, I guess. And so we're hoping that we've kept a spreadsheet of those. So we're hoping that this Pride in Place funding that's coming up could fix a few of those local issues, like creating lay-bys in places where traffic, where parking's really bad and blocking roads and or blocking bins even sometimes. So we can just kind of look at those kind of little issues that affect people every day and try and eliminate a few of those. That's kind of going to be the aim going forward. But,
I noticed the other day when you'd started using the community payback team.
oh, you did you? Yeah.
Yes, I
Shh.
did. um, are you going to please? Do you intend keeping an eye on what they do because they do go a bit fiddle? With the
Um,
best intentions that they do have, they do.
I'll be
They
honest with you.
go over and above what they're meant to.
I mean, they're supposed to be supervised anyway. But the the jobs we've asked them to do, they've done pretty well, to be fair, so far. So it's just about having the right jobs for them, I
It does
think.
seem a good idea when they're in the funding there to use them to get stuff done, like clearing the paths and stuff like that.
Yeah. And that's what we've tried to do is
Yeah.
really just try and think outside the box. Like for example, on St George's Road, there's crossings right at the top towards Asda, but at the bottom end where the park is, and the plantation, there's no crossing down there. And so like residents like would look like a crossing down here because it's quite a busy road. And like, well, there's no funding. You can't get funding just for a crossing just because, yeah, it's really complicated to get that thing in. But then we managed to get it put in on the connecting Leeds stuff um, and sustainable travel. So there was some funding for Elements School to try and get the kids to be walking and cycling to school. Um, So we thought, well, that's a perfect opportunity to get the crossing because a lot of the kids live on New Forest. So it's like, so we ended up getting our own way just because we'd like tapped into that funding. So it's just, you have to think about outside the box sometimes and try and see what else is out there, what will match up with a different priority to get the same outcome. So we do a lot of that, trying to work out stuff. So that's similar to what we did you know, with Manor Farm paths behind houses that were all blocked up with loads of like years and years of just dead vegetation. And that's why we use community payback because it like benefits them because they've got an activity to do what they need to do. And then, yeah, it don't cost the council any money really, other than like a bit towards removal of waste.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah.
Right. And it's going to be good night from me then. And thank you, everybody that's joined us tonight. There's been quite a few people there. And if you want to recap on everything that you've seen, it'll be on YouTube, on the YouTube channel. Um, Last night you got it on straight away, didn't you? It was on within a couple of hours. It were on YouTube, so hopefully later on tonight.
No pressure. No, thanks for having me. Thanks to South Leeds Life for putting it on, and it's just a shame our other candidates couldn't make it, but maybe next year.
Yeah. And don't forget to vote.
And don't forget to vote and take your ID.